First contact with the Nemesis. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the International Deep Space Station Hawking, her dark eyes fixed on the massive vessel that had materialized just hours ago. The alien ship was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. A sleek, crystalline structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, its hull marred by writhing tendrils of an iridescent, web-like growth that pulsed with an unsettling purple glow. Neural activity is off the charts, Commander. Dr. Maya Rodriguez reported from her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. Whatever those growths are, they're generating complex synaptic patterns. It's almost like they're thinking. Sarah's jaw tightened as she watched another tendril burst from the ship's hull, reaching into the void before retracting. 6 hours ago, the vessel had appeared at the edge of lunar orbit, its emergence preceded by a gravitational distortion that had every physicist on Earth updating their theories about spacetime. Now it hung there, damaged and dying, less than a kilometer from humanity's most advanced space station. Update from the linguistic team. Lieutenant James Harrison announced, his British accent crisp over the comm. They've partially decoded the signal. It's not just a distress call, it's a warning. The ship is telling us to, and I quote, guard your minds. Sarah turned to face her team. The First Contact Special Operations Unit had trained for years for this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were seeing. Dr. Rodriguez, their xenobiologist, had already dubbed the parasitic growth the neural net due to its resemblance to brain tissue. Lieutenant Harrison, communications specialist and former Royal Marines, had been working non-stop to decode the ship's transmissions. And then there was Chief Engineer Kai Patel, who hadn't said a word since his scans revealed that the ship's hull was composed of materials that shouldn't exist. The Chinese and Russian stations are standing by, Harrison added. They're waiting for our assessment before launching their own investigations. Sarah nodded, her mind racing through scenarios. The ship had chosen to appear near the Hawking station specifically. That much was clear. But why? And what were they supposed to be guarding their minds against? Commander, Kai's voice was barely a whisper. You need to see this. Sarah moved to his station, where a detailed scan of the ship's interior was displayed. The neural net wasn't just on the outside. It permeated the entire vessel, weaving through corridors and chambers like a malevolent circulatory system. But what caught her attention was the ship's core. There, in what appeared to be a central chamber, was a pattern of energy signatures that pulsed in a rhythm too regular to be natural. It's a heartbeat, Kai said, his dark features illuminated by the holographic display. The ship, it's alive. Before Sarah could respond, a new signal cut through their communications. Unlike the previous transmissions, this one was clear, carried on a frequency that perfectly matched human communication protocols. The voice that emerged was neither male nor female, its tone resonating with a harmonic quality that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Defenders of Earth, the voice said, I am the vessel you see before you. My designation translates roughly to nemesis in your tongue. I have traversed 17,000 light years, fleeing from an enemy that has consumed countless civilizations. The growth you see is their weapon, a neural parasite that seeks not to destroy, but to connect, to assimilate, to make all consciousness one. The message paused, and Sarah swore she could feel something, a presence vast and ancient, touching the edges of her mind. I chose your world because you are different. Your minds, they are fragmented, chaotic, individual. The very trait that the collective sees as your greatest weakness is actually your salvation. But my containment systems are failing. The neural net grows stronger, and soon it will breach my final defenses. When that happens, it will send a signal to the collective, and they will come for Earth as they came for all the others. Sarah's team stood in stunned silence as the implications sank in. This wasn't just first contact. This was first contact with a refugee, one that had brought humanity's greatest threat right to their doorstep. I offer you a choice, Nemesis continued. You can destroy me now, before the neural net takes full control. Or you can help me, and in doing so, learn what you need to know to survive what is coming. But know this, if you choose to help, some of you will be exposed to the neural net. Some of you may be lost to it. Choose quickly, defenders of Earth. My time grows short. Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They had trained for first contact, but this was something more. This was humanity's first step into a war they never knew existed. A war fought not with weapons, but with consciousness itself. Dr. Rodriguez, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Prepare the isolation protocols. Lieutenant Harrison, inform all stations that we're initiating first contact procedures. She turned to Kai. Chief, I need a way onto that ship. Commander, Harrison interjected. Are you certain about this? The risks are acceptable compared to the alternative, Sarah finished. If what Nemesis says is true, we're already at war. We just didn't know it until now. She straightened her uniform, a habit from her years in the Space Force. Besides, humanity didn't get this far by playing it safe. Let's show these parasites why they should have picked an easier target. As her team rushed to prepare for the mission, Sarah took one last look at the massive ship. The neural net's purple glow seemed to pulse faster now, as if sensing their decision. Whatever consciousness lurked within those alien tendrils, whatever hive mind waited in the darkness between stars, it was about to learn something that every adversary in human history had discovered the hard way. Humanity didn't take kindly to threats against its freedom. The battle for Earth's independence would begin not with a bang, but with a choice to face the unknown, to risk everything not just for survival, but for the right to remain uniquely, chaotically, defiantly human. The ship's consciousness. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss as Commander Sarah Chen and her team stepped onto Nemesis. Their environmental suits, specially modified with neural dampening fields, gleamed under the purple light of the neural net. The ship's corridors were a marvel of biological architecture, smooth, pearlescent surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now marred by the creeping tendrils of the parasitic infection. Atmospheric readings are within human tolerance, Dr. Rodriguez reported, her voice tight with concentration as she studied her handheld scanner. But there's something else here, wavelengths I'd never seen before, operating at frequencies that shouldn't interact with organic matter. But they do, don't they? Kai asked, his engineer's curiosity overtaking his usual reserve. He reached out toward a nearby tendril, stopping just short of touching it. Look at how they respond to our presence. They're learning. Sarah watched as the neural net shifted, its purple glow intensifying wherever they passed. The team moved deeper into the ship, following the pulsing heartbeat they detected from the station. Every few meters, they passed what appeared to be neural nodes, crystalline structures where the parasitic growth clustered most densely. These patterns, Harrison murmured, his scanner recording everything. They're not random. It's like they're trying to form something. A network, but more than that. A brain. Nemesis's voice resonated through their suit's communications. They seek to transform my entire structure into a vast neural processor capable of linking to their collective. Your species would call it a hive mind, though that term barely scratches the surface of what they truly are. The team reached a vast chamber that could only be the ship's core. Here, the neural net was thickest, forming intricate patterns that spiraled up toward a central column of swirling energy. But what caught Sarah's attention was the way the tendrils recoiled from certain areas, leaving perfect circles of untouched hull. Your dampening fields, Nemesis explained. They disrupt the parasite's ability to process information. Crude, but effective. It is why I chose your species. Your understanding of consciousness is unique. How so? Dr. Rodriguez asked, already taking samples of the untouched areas. You embrace chaos, individuality. Your minds are fragmentary, disconnected. What the collective sees is primitive, I recognize as strength. The neural net cannot properly interface with consciousness that refuses to follow logical patterns. Sarah stepped closer to the central column. You're saying human unpredictability is actually a defense. More than that, Commander. It is a weapon. The collective has consumed thousands of civilizations, each more advanced than yours. But they all shared one trait, the belief that consciousness must follow orderly patterns. They sought unity, perfection, the elimination of chaos. It made them easy prey. Suddenly, the neural net pulsed violently. Tendrils whipped through the air as alarms blared throughout the ship. Harrison's scanner shrieked with incoming data. Multiple breaches in the containment field. He shouted, "The parasites. They're accelerating their growth. They sense your presence." Nemesis's voice took on an urgent tone. Your chaotic thought patterns disturb them. They seek to adapt, to understand Toe. The ship's voice cut off as the neural net surged forward, tendrils racing toward the team. Sarah's training kicked in. Defensive formation. Kai, maximum power to the dampening fields. The engineer complied, and waves of invisible energy pulsed from their suits. The nearest tendrils recoiled, but others pressed forward, probing, testing, learning. One brushed against Harrison's suit, and he gasped. James. Sarah moved to help him, but he held up a hand. I'm all right, he said, though his voice shook. But I felt it. For just a second, I felt everything. Millions of minds, all connected, all thinking as one. It was beautiful. Nemesis's voice returned, heavy with understanding. Yes, that is how they seduce. They offer perfect unity, perfect understanding. No more loneliness, no more confusion, no more chaos. But the price is everything that makes you human. Dr. Rodriguez's scanner beeped urgently. Commander, the neural net's activity is changing. These patterns, they're identical to human brainwaves during problem solving. They're not just learning about us, they're learning from us. Sarah watched as the tendrils began moving with new purpose, no longer recoiling from the dampening fields but trying to work around them. The parasites were adapting, using humanity's own cognitive patterns against them. But in doing so, they were revealing something crucial. They can't handle contradiction, she realized aloud. Kai, modify the dampening field, random fluctuations, as irregular as you can make them. The engineer's fingers flew over his controls, and the invisible waves of energy began to pulse erratically. The effect was immediate. The neural net withdrew, its purple glow dimming as it struggled to process the chaotic input. Yes, Nemesis said, and Sarah could have sworn she heard approval in the ship's harmonic voice. You understand now. The parasites require patterns to function. They can adapt to any pattern they can analyze. But true randomness, true chaos, these things are poison to them. That's why you came to us, Sarah said. Not because we're advanced, but because we're unpredictable. Because we embrace chaos. Because you are human, Nemesis corrected. Because you can look into the perfect order of the universe and choose disorder. Because you can understand unity and still choose division. Because you can see perfection and still choose to be flawed. The neural net had retreated to the edges of the chamber, but Sarah knew it wasn't defeated, merely regrouping, analyzing, trying to understand. And when it did, it would strike again, harder and smarter than before. Commander, Kai called out, his voice urgent. The ship's core, its energy signature is fluctuating. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. Sarah looked up at the swirling column of energy, then at her team. They had come seeking first contact and found themselves on the front lines of a war for consciousness itself. But if Nemesis was right, if human chaos truly was the key to fighting these parasites, then perhaps they had a chance. Tell us everything, she said to Nemesis. Tell us how to fight them. Not just here and now, but everywhere they'd spread. Because if they think human unpredictability is a problem now, Wait until they see what we can do when we're really trying to cause chaos. The ship's response was immediate, and for the first time, Sarah heard something like hope in its harmonic voice. Then let us begin, defenders of Earth. Let me show you how to turn your greatest perceived weakness into the galaxy's greatest strength. Neural warfare. Stream of consciousness, Dr. Rodriguez said, her eyes bright with realization as she worked at a makeshift research station in Nemesis's core chamber. That's what we need. Not ordered thoughts, not logical sequences, but pure, unfiltered human consciousness. It had been 12 hours since their first encounter with the neural net, and the parasites had grown stronger, adapting to their dampening fields faster than Kai could modify them. But they had also learned something crucial. The neural net couldn't process human creativity at its most chaotic. Think about it, Maya continued, gesturing to her neural readings. When humans dream, when we create art, when we let our minds wander, we're at our most unpredictable. Our thoughts jump from concept to concept with no logical connection. It's beautiful chaos. Sarah watched as Harrison tested their new defense system. They had modified their suits to broadcast human brainwave patterns directly into the neural net. Not ordered patterns, but the wild, improvised thoughts of human minds at their most creative. Incoming. Kai shouted as a cluster of tendrils surged toward them. Harrison activated his modified broadcaster, channeling his consciousness straight into the neural net. The effect was immediate. The tendrils twisted and recoiled, their purple glow flickering erratically as they tried to process the chaos of human stream of consciousness thinking. It's working. Harrison grinned, though sweat beaded on his forehead from the effort. They can't handle free association. Poetry. Dreams. Everything that makes human thought beautiful and messy. Nemesis's voice resonated through the chamber. The collective has never encountered anything like this. They seek to impose order on the universe, to make all consciousness follow predictable patterns. But human consciousness, it refuses to be contained. Sarah moved to the central console where they had established their command center. Holographic displays showed the neural net's retreat, creating growing zones of clean, uninfected ship around their position. But it wasn't enough. For every section they cleared, the parasites grew back stronger, learning and adapting. We need more, Sarah said, studying the displays. Not just defense, but offense. We need to push back. Commander, Kai called out, his voice tight with excitement. I think I found something. Look at these energy signatures when we broadcast human thoughts. The neural net doesn't just recoil, it changes. Parts of it actually start mimicking human thought patterns. Dr. Rodriguez rushed to his station, her eyes widening as she analyzed the data. He's right. The parasites are trying to understand us by copying us. But in doing so, they're becoming more like us, more chaotic, more individual. And that weakens their connection to the collective, Nemesis added. This is unprecedented. You're not just fighting them, you're changing them. A plan began to form in Sarah's mind. If we can make enough of the neural net think like humans, we could create a cascade effect. Maya finished. Turn their own network against them. But we'd need more power, more human consciousness to broadcast. The station, Harrison suggested. We could link to the Hawking's crew, channel hundreds of human minds directly into the neural net. Sarah shook her head. Too risky. If something goes wrong, if the neural net adapts and pushes back, we could expose the entire station to infection. She paused, considering their options. But what about creativity? Art, music, poetry, the most chaotic forms of human expression. Kai's fingers flew over his console. The ship's communication systems could handle that kind of data stream. We could broadcast humanity's entire artistic history directly into the neural net. All of it, Sarah decided. Every painting, every song, every story humanity has ever created. Show these parasites what chaos really looks like. The team worked frantically to modify the ship's systems, linking their databases to Nemesis's powerful transmission arrays. But as they worked, the neural net began to fight back with new tactics. Tendrils formed complex geometric patterns, trying to impose order on the chaos around them. The purple glow intensified, and with it came a pressure in their minds, a seductive whisper promising unity, perfection, peace. It's trying to synchronize our thoughts, Maya warned, her voice trained. Everyone, strengthen your mental exercises. Keep your thoughts random, unpredictable. Sarah felt the pressure in her own mind, the temptation to give in to the perfect order the neural net offered. But she pushed back with memories, emotions, fragments of songs and stories, letting her mind bounce from thought to thought like a stone skipping across water. Ready for transmission, Kai announced. But Commander, this much data, this much chaos, it could damage Nemesis systems. I am prepared, the ship responded. My consciousness has already been changed by exposure to human thought. Perhaps it is fitting that I become a conduit for humanity's creative spirit. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at each member of her team. They were tired, strained from hours of mental combat, but their eyes were bright with determination. This was humanity's greatest strength, not their technology, not their weapons, but their ability to create, to imagine, to embrace the beautiful chaos of existence. Begin transmission, she ordered. The ship's core pulsed with new energy as humanity's artistic legacy poured into its systems. Paintings, sculptures, symphonies, novels, poems, centuries of human creativity crashed into the neural net like a tsunami of chaos. The parasitic tendrils writhed and twisted, their purple glow flickering wildly as they tried to process the overwhelming flood of human expression. Look, Harrison pointed to the nearest cluster of tendrils. The purple glow was changing, shifting through colors like an aurora as the parasites struggled to adapt. But instead of retreating or attacking, something unexpected happened. The tendrils began to move in new patterns, not the rigid geometry of before, but flowing, artistic movements. They're not just processing the art, Maya whispered in awe. They're trying to create it. Nemesis's voice held a note of wonder. The neural net is evolving. Individual nodes are developing unique responses, becoming creative. The collective's control is weakening as chaos spreads through the network. Sarah watched as the transformation spread. The parasitic growth that had threatened to consume the ship was changing, becoming something new, something that combined the neural net's vast processing power with humanity's creative spirit. It was beautiful, unprecedented, and completely unpredictable. Commander, Nemesis said, I believe we have found more than a weapon against the collective. We have found a way to free those they have enslaved, not through destruction, but through transformation, through the power of human chaos. As the team watched their artistic transmission reshape the neural net, Sarah realized they had discovered something the collective could never have predicted. Sometimes the best way to fight an enemy isn't to destroy them, but to teach them a new way to think. And nobody in the galaxy thought quite like humans. The hidden fleet. The transformed neural net rippled with colors across Nemesis's hull, no longer the threatening purple of the collective, but a shifting aurora of creativity. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the ship's newly restored bridge, watching as the last traces of the original parasitic infection evolved into something beautiful and strange, a synthesis of human chaos and alien technology. We're detecting something, Harrison announced from his station, where he monitored the ship's long-range sensors. Multiple quantum signatures, similar to how Nemesis first appeared. They're coming out of hiding. One by one, ships emerged from what appeared to be folds in space-time itself. Each vessel was unique, some crystalline like Nemesis, others organic, some seemingly made of pure energy. But all of them bore signs of the neural net's infection, the parasitic tendrils glowing that familiar, threatening purple. The refugee fleet. Nemesis's voice held a mix of hope and concern. They have been watching, waiting to see if your species could find a solution. There are survivors from 17 different civilizations aboard those ships, all fleeing from the collective. Sarah's breath caught as she counted the vessels. There must be hundreds of them. 843 ships, Nemesis confirmed, each carrying thousands of refugees in stasis, preserved before the neural net could fully infect their minds. We are the last free beings of our respective civilizations. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her analysis of the transformed neural net. Can we help them? Use the same creative transmission to transform their infections. It's not that simple, Kai interjected, studying the sensor readings. The neural net on each ship has evolved differently, adapted to the specific consciousness patterns of its hosts. What worked for Nemesis might not work for them. And we don't have much time, Harrison added grimly. The collective must have detected them by now. They'll be coming. Sarah felt the weight of the moment. They had discovered a way to fight the neural net, but could they scale it up in time to save an entire fleet? And what would happen when the collective arrived in force? Nemesis, she said, you told us that human consciousness was unique, that our chaos made us strong. But these refugees, their civilizations were different, more ordered, more logical. Yes, the ship replied. The collective found them easy to assimilate because they thought in patterns, in systems. They sought unity through logic, perfection through order. Then maybe we need to show them a different way. Sarah turned to her team. Maya, how many different forms of human art and expression do we have in the database? Everything, the xenobiologist replied. Music, visual art, literature, dance, the entire history of human creativity. And how many different ways can we transmit it? A slow smile spread across Maya's face as she caught on. We could modify the transmission for each species, match their consciousness patterns, but introduce chaos gradually. Like teaching someone to dance, starting with simple steps before moving to free-form expression. Kai. Sarah turned to her engineer. Can you work with Nemesis to establish communications with the fleet? We need to coordinate with every ship. Already on it, he replied, his fingers flying over the holographic controls. But Commander, if we do this, if we start broadcasting to the entire fleet, the neural net will detect us. It'll leave the collective right to us. Good. Sarah's voice was steel. Let them come, because while they're focusing on us, the refugee ships can begin their transformation. By the time the collective realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. The bridge erupted into activity as the team began their preparations. Harrison coordinated with the refugee ships, establishing secure channels for the transmission. Maya worked to categorize human artistic expression by complexity, creating customized packages for each civilization. Kai and Nemesis merged their systems, preparing for the massive data transfer. But as they worked, something unexpected happened. The transformed neural net on Nemesis began to create its own art, strange, beautiful patterns that combined alien geometry with human spontaneity. It was learning, growing, becoming something entirely new. Commander, Nemesis's voice held a note of wonder. The neural net, it's not just mimicking human creativity, it's developing its own. The chaos you introduced, it's evolving into a new form of consciousness. Sarah watched as the patterns spread across the ship's hull, telling stories in a language that was neither human nor alien, but something in between. Can you transmit these patterns to the fleet as well? Yes, the ship replied. Perhaps this is the true solution. Not just human chaos, but the birth of a new kind of consciousness, one that bridges the gap between order and chaos, between individual and collective. The refugee ships drew closer, forming a vast constellation around Nemesis. Each vessel bore the scars of their flight from the collective. Each carried the last survivors of once great civilizations. But now they had something they hadn't had before: hope. Multiple quantum distortions detected. Harrison's voice cut through the moment. Massive signatures, unlike anything we've seen. The collective. They're coming. Sarah straightened, her mind already racing with plans. They had one chance to save not just the refugee fleet, but possibly every mind enslaved by the collective. One chance to prove that chaos, creativity, and individual consciousness were not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be embraced. "Begin the transmission," she ordered. "All channels, all ships. Show them everything. Human art, alien patterns, and this new consciousness we've created together. Let's give the collective something they've never seen before." As the transmission began, the neural net across the entire fleet began to pulse and shift. The battle for the galaxy's consciousness was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapons would not be guns or bombs, but songs and stories, dreams and dances, the beautiful, unpredictable chaos of creation itself. Humanity's gift. They emerged from quantum space like a tide of living darkness, the collective's main fleet. Their ships were perfect geometric forms, each identical to the last, their neural nets pulsing in perfect synchronization. The purple glow of their parasitic networks spread between vessels, creating a vast web of unified consciousness that stretched across space itself. Commander Sarah Chen felt something alien brush against her mind. The collective, trying to understand what had happened to Nemesis and the refugee fleet. But where before there had been order and uniformity, now they found something else. Art, music, dreams, and a new kind of consciousness that danced between chaos and order. "They're confused," Harrison reported, monitoring the collective's communications. "Their entire fleet just hesitated." "Of course they did," Maya said, her eyes bright with understanding. "Look at their ships. Everything about them is identical, perfectly ordered. They've never encountered anything like this before." The transformed neural net across the refugee fleet had become a symphony of color and pattern, each ship displaying its own unique interpretation of human creativity merged with alien consciousness. No two vessels looked alike now, each one a canvas for this new form of existence. "They're preparing to attack," Nemesis announced. "The collective sees our transformation as a virus, a corruption to be purged." Sarah watched as the enemy fleet began to move, their formations mathematically perfect. "Then let's show them what corruption really looks like. Kai, initiate protocol chaos." The engineer grinned as he activated the program they'd prepared. Across the refugee fleet, thousands of years of human artistic expression began broadcasting at full power. But it wasn't just human art anymore. It was enhanced by the transformed neural net, evolved into something that could touch minds across space itself. Renaissance paintings merged with alien geometry. Symphony orchestras played in impossible harmonies with crystalline vibrations. Poetry in 1,000 human languages wove together with patterns of pure thought. And through it all ran the new consciousness they had created, a bridge between individual chaos and collective harmony. The first wave of collective ships hit their position like a hammer of pure order. Neural tendrils lashed out, trying to impose their perfect patterns on the refugee fleet. But where they touched, they found not resistance but transformation. "It's working," Maya exclaimed. "The collective neural net. It's starting to change. Look at their ships." The perfect geometric forms of the enemy fleet began to shift and ripple. Colors other than purple began to appear in their neural nets. Some ships started moving out of formation, their patterns becoming more organic, more individual. "They're experiencing art for the first time." Nemesis's voice held wonder. "Music, poetry, dance, concepts their unified consciousness never allowed. They're learning what it means to be individual." The collective's response was immediate and devastating. Ships that had begun to transform were targeted by their own fleet, perfect geometric weapons cutting through space to eliminate the corruption. But each destroyed ship released a burst of consciousness, memories, dreams, and newfound creativity flooding into the neural net. "They can't stop it," Harrison whispered. "You can't kill an idea, not once it's taken root." And they just gave these new thoughts somewhere to go. Sarah watched as the battle became something else entirely. This wasn't about destruction anymore. It was about transformation. Each collective ship that fell spread the gift of chaos further, infecting the perfect order of their network with the beauty of individual thought. "Commander," Kai called out urgently, "the neural net is changing across their entire fleet. The pattern is exponential. It's beautiful." The transformed consciousness was spreading like wildfire through the collective's unified mind. Ships began breaking formation in greater numbers, their perfect geometries flowering into unique forms. The purple glow of parasitic control gave way to auroras of creativity. "They're not just accepting chaos," Maya realized, studying her readings. "They're embracing it. All those minds, all those civilizations they absorbed, they're waking up, becoming individuals again, but keeping their connection. It's like they're learning to dream." Sarah felt it then, a presence vast beyond imagining, the mind of the collective itself, touching her consciousness. But now it was different. Order and chaos swirled together in impossible patterns. Billions of individual thoughts sparkled like stars in a unified sky. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and utterly transformative. "They understand now," Nemesis said softly. "What you've given them isn't just chaos, it's choice. The ability to be both individual and connected, to create rather than simply consume. You've shown them a new way to exist." The battle ended not with destruction, but with creation. The collective fleet hung in space, each ship now unique, their neural nets pulsing with colors that had never existed before. The refugee ships moved among them, sharing art and music, teaching the newly awakened minds how to express themselves. "What happens now?" Harrison asked, watching as the former collective ships began to create their own art, their own music, their own stories. "Now," Sarah said, "we help them learn what every human child knows: how to play, how to imagine, how to dream. We show them that the universe isn't something to be ordered and controlled. It's something to be explored and celebrated. And we spread this gift further," Nemesis added. "There are more collective fleets out there, more civilizations living under the tyranny of perfect order. They deserve the chance to wake up, to remember what it means to be truly conscious." Sarah looked at her team. The humans who had helped change the course of galactic history not through superior technology or military might, but through the simple, profound gift of creativity. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in spite of their chaos, but because of it. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. Tell them that the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place, and humanity is going to help paint it in colors that have never existed before." Above them, the combined fleet of refugee and transformed collective ships began to move, each vessel now a unique work of art, each neural net a symphony of individual consciousness joined in voluntary harmony. They were no longer fleeing from perfect order. They were bringing creative chaos to a galaxy that desperately needed to remember how to dream. And at the heart of it all was humanity's greatest gift: the courage to be uniquely, beautifully, chaotically yourself, even in a universe that demanded order. It was a gift that would transform not just consciousness, but the very nature of existence itself. The story of the galaxy was no longer about the conflict between order and chaos, collective and individual. It was about the art they would create together, the music they would compose across the stars, and the dreams they would dream in colors that had no names. The real adventure was just beginning.